morning, Paul Osterhout. We have a very good guest today. The guest is not only a creative producer, he's a TEDx speaker and Disney Imagineering experienced most very experienced person. Today we have, he is Paul Osterhout. Paul, thank you so much for coming to the AI and Era podcast show.
It's my pleasure, Vibek. It's good to be talking with you again.
Thank you so much. In today's world, the Disney is a fabulous area. Animated movies, which we see in the old eras, we really define that our emotions, our thinking, and our patience. So the most of the things we know that today's Disney World giving us more and more layoff to it today's because of the AI. Okay, that's appreciated. Without the technology, the movies cannot be grown. Yeah. So my first question is for you that the emotional truth. Do you believe great storytelling must protect no matter how technology evolves?
Yeah, I think when we think about the older animated films, and by the way, I never worked with in the Disney animation group. I wasn't part of the story team, but I was with the Walt Disney Company in the theme park side, and of course, storytelling was very important to us as well. And I think when you think about those older movies, every frame, every beat was intentional. They weren't built by algorithms. Who that were the algorithms chase engagement. That's the purpose of an algorithm, is to figure out what people think, what the algorithms think people want, and go get that, right. But the older stories were built by storytellers who were chasing the truth. And so that's the difference, right? The storytellers really put story first, and they felt in their gut that the engagement would come. And the engagement wasn't intentional. There wasn't the intention to get engagement. They just knew if they told a great story, they would get it. And I think that's the difference now, is that those older stories, again, were very intentional. They figured out the beats to the story, and they let the story draw you in. And that's I think the biggest difference of what we see films today, and from when we grew up and we loved those old stories.
Any example you add?
When you think about like Bambi or The Lion King or Dumbo, they weren't just cute stories. Um, they they were engineered to go for our emotion. They that's what those stories were in. So you had, and they weren't shy about dealing with real life issues. Bambi lost his mother. Um, Lion King, the father died. Um, Dumbo was made fun of, was harassed and made fun of by his peers. Real life instances that people have to deal with in real life, but those were translated into an animated story that had to find a resolution. So I think that's why we were drawn to those stories even more. They felt more emotional to us.
Okay, thank you, and I appreciate with this that people should be emotional on this. And the moment, the creativity moment also happened. My question is about like what moment in your creative journey changed the way you understood imagination, not as entertainment but as responsibility.
Hmm. I think for me in my own career, it was about maybe not so much as an animated film, but it was more probably a live entertainment, a live spectacle, where it was. I think, as I recall, it may have been a show at Disney that I was backstage watching it from the side from backstage, and it was about the how the music moved us emotionally, how there was pauses in the dialogue that allowed us to fill in the blanks, if you will, and to we weren't just spoon fed the entertainment. We were allowed as audience members to kind of fill in our own experiences and our own meaning on some of that live entertainment. And so for me, it's like that's what I started thinking about. Oh, theater is real magic. That's where real magic is in theater. As something as simple as some simple dialogue and some simple scenery and some music and some lighting and putting those elements together, you can transform an audience. You can take them to some place they'd never been or they never thought they would be. And obviously, it can be done very emotionally with these simple elements done well with purpose can transform. And to me, that's where the magic started from, and where I felt there was a responsibility to, if you're going to tell a story, tell an honest story. And so that's kind of where my journey, I suppose, started.
Yeah, like the emotions is increasing by the story. So, how someone can go for a story to start blockbusterly? Like, if someone want to start the story, is really good for emotion. How someone can start the story only for the emotion?
Well, you have to think about be what it means to be a human and the things that we go through as humans. We have love, we have laughter, we have loss, and if these are real human feelings. And so I think if you're going to tell a story that is going to pull on your emotions, you can't ignore those things, because no matter where we are from the West, from the East, India, North America, China, we all are bound by these same emotions. We have different stories, we have different beliefs, but the emotions are going to be the same no matter where you are anywhere in the world.
Right.
And so if you start to think about, if you're going to create a story, you have to be honest with those, pulling on those emotional strings. And then you have to decide, is the story going to be a happy ending? Is it not going to be a happy ending? Or is this story going to make us think about something? And when we start to get the audience to think about something, they think about their own lives, then you've created an emotional moment. You've created an emotional story.
um, in modern world, in modern industry cinematic world, there is any kind of differences, in if you will compare with any kind of animated movie or any simple movie, is there any difference of the storytelling?
I think so. I think what happens is, recently, well, not recently, maybe in the last 30 years or so, I believe our attention spans have gotten much, much shorter. Just because now we can go online and we can see a TikTok, and if we don't like it, we can just click. So if we're not engaged, if we're not pulled in like the first 8-10 seconds, we're just going to move on to the next thing. And so now we're, as an audience, we're kind of used to that, or we're kind of now doing that. And I think movie filmmakers now understand that our attention spans have gotten shorter. And if we don't engage you with the next wow or the next emotion, within 15-20 seconds, the audience is going to lose interest. And that's unfortunate, because some stories don't really work that way. You want to build an emotion slowly. You want to build conflict slowly. And so I think we're starting to see now this notion of really good films are going back to slowly building a really good story. And I think audiences now are maybe getting tired of this quick TikTok kind of mentality. At least I hope they are, because for me, I would much rather have a slow, not slowly, but a well-defined story. Whether it's slow or fast, it doesn't. That's not important. What's important is it's well-defined, and it takes me. I want the story to be like a roller coaster, right? where sometimes you're going up a hill very slowly, and sometimes you're going over the top, and it's very quick. And you have a mixture of both. The best roller coasters have a great mixture of anticipation and release. Anticipation, release, and that's to me that's what a good story should be. And so now as we start to see maybe the next phase of storytelling, we're getting away from maybe from all this action, really ba 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 ba, getting away from that action stuff a little bit now, and maybe going back to a more structured, well built story. So that's my hope anyway.
Yeah, like everybody just spectacle things. I want to put an example like of a Jurassic World, Jurassic Park. People are means like the movie is fantastic, and the emotional, dramatic is everything. But one thing is missing in every frame. People want drama with action
Mm.
without any time wasting. So for that reason, the movies like demand to story like this. So obviously that people go for the 2D animations, which is very previous. They're very emotional. Toy Story, Nemo, yes, and I have a question on that. Like Nemo, what do you think about the Nemo, and how the creators can give their storytelling towards the Nemo? Is there any information you have?
Oh, I think Nemo is a good example of pulling at our fear, right? It's pulling our fear of we've lost our child. Our if you're a parent, one your biggest fear is losing track of where your child is. You go into a shopping center or you go into a park and you turn around and all of a sudden your child is wandered off. As one of the biggest fears of any parent anywhere in the world. And so that's the part that at Nemo that all of a sudden now we start to feel anxious, right? Because we all know that feeling is not a good feeling. And of course, the great thing about Finding Nemo is it also has humor. So what I remember when I told you, you got this anticipation, this uh, stress, and then there's a release, right? So you have this moment of humor, which kind of takes the anticipation away for a minute. But it's not till the very end that Nemo and his father, are reunited. And so this whole journey of this this underlying current of stress about what's going to happen with little Nemo. Is he going to be able to get home again? And so I think that's a universal kind of emotion that they pulled on. And so the other thing about um, newer movies like Jurassic Park and not and Nemo a little bit, but is we're I think if we grew up in the early 40 years ago, our animation we used to be was hand drawn animation, right? And so now we have computer animation and CGI. And for me, those are just tools. It's just a tool to create a film. And as long as you have a good story and you're going to tell a good story and you're telling it well, for me, the tool doesn't matter. You could have done you could have done a Jurassic Park or Jurassic World as an animated movie. It wouldn't have mattered. The story is going to work. You could have done Finding Nemo as a CGI live action. It's still going to work as a story. I think because they didn't choose that, I think Nemo does work much better as an animated figure because just because of the when you start to put things in the CGI real world, and then you start to have fish that talk, and now all of a sudden you're taking it out of a believability, even though obviously fish aren't going to talk. But when you keep it in that animated, colorful world, at least there's a sense of engagement and believability. Like, oh, I'm in this world and I can believe it, even though subconsciously we know it. Fish aren't going to talk like that, right? They're not going to communicate like that. So I think those decisions that filmmakers have to make about are we going what tools are we going to use to tell this story go into what's the best way to tell the story that the audience is going to fall into the story and the walls of the theater are going to just disappear, and they're going to just come into that. They're going to follow the story with us, and so that's all part of it as well.
Yeah, I appreciate about this. Like if we go to any kind of movie or cinematic world, there is a two part. One is storytelling, another is musical part.
Mm,
So, if I'm talking about the Coco, the movie name is Coco. I just
mhm,
recently watched that movie and I just love it. And people also love that because the Mexican culture and the
mm.
musical hit and story, that is awesome. Wow. And so, what about what you want to say about the some musical hit? Why is
Mm.
it happen to any kind of movie should be musical hit? It should because storytelling is enough. I hope so.
In a great animated film, music does half the storytelling, at least half. In Coco, for instance, it not only does it move the story forward, but it creates an emotional moment. Right. So here's a good example. If you think about the movie Dumbo, and in the movie Dumbo, when the mother elephant is singing about her baby, baby mine, that sequence in Dumbo, that wasn't just a scene. That was like an emotional moment that the mother's love for a child, for a baby is just overwhelming, right? This bond between mother and child. And that if you think about that movie, that's what the story of the movie is about, right? And so that one scene, that one musical scene takes up so much of the storytelling, is responsible for so much of that storytelling. Um, the Lion King, I Can't Wait to Be King, is so much about the storytelling of a young adolescent growing into adulthood in that just that musical sequence, right? So for me, if you don't if you don't have really good strong musical numbers in an animated film, I'm going to be less interested. But if you have great musical numbers that really tell half the story, then you've got me pulled in. And Coco is a really good example of that happening.
Uh, is it applicable for theme park also? We can add the music in nowadays in the theme parks as well. Is it good for the theme parks?
Yeah, it's very good for the theme park. And the way that I used to think about animated films and theme parks is the studio, and because I was at Walt Disney Company for so long, the Walt Disney animation department group, and then of course Pixar, both teams, they would birth the story, they would birth the film, they would birth the intellectual property, and then it would go into do a theatrical release, and then then maybe you could buy the video and have it at home, and then the theme park is where that story goes to live in three dimensions, that you can go experience it, you can be part of it, you can walk through it, you can ride through it. And so the studio birthed the IP, Pixar or Walt Disney Animation. And then in the theme park, that's where the IP goes to be experienced in a different way, and hopefully forever. Right. That's where you'd hope that story can live forever in a three-dimensional way. And so, with that said, music, if it's a big part of the animated film, then yes, it's going to be a big part of the theme park experience as well. Because, a really good piece of music captures us emotionally in ways that sometimes we don't understand or we don't think about until we hear that music. And then we hear that music, it just reminds us of a time when we first saw the film. And and a lot of times when we see these films, we see them as very, very young children. Our parents take us to see the film, and we're very young. So we have not had the time as a very young child to build this emotional armor, right? So when we're watching these films, we're much more affected by the death of Bambi's mother, or Mufasa's dying in Lion King, or Coco's grandmother, or whatever it is. We're seeing these things as very young people. And so again, we don't have this emotional armor that we just like, oh my God, it's real. Bambi's mother really died. And so now these moments are going to stick with us forever, right? And it's just kind of like a big, as a child, it's kind of a punch in the heart.
Yeah.
And so it affects us much deeper.
Yeah, I see that Bambi's mother. I just watched that movie Bambi, and I really appreciate you towards your answer about this. There's which character do you like most for emotion?
Oh boy. Um, hmm, I th- I think I like the character of Dumbo a lot. I mean, that's very old, 1940s. Like, I don't know, 80 years ago, I guess. But it was like it's like one of those films that just was just like so hard hitting when I first saw it. And the thing is, now when I see that movie, uh, I'm revisiting it as a young child, not as an adult, because the first time you see the movie, that's going to be your deepest memory. So now, when I see that movie, I'm reconnecting with that version that I felt when I first saw it when I was very young. So that emotional connection now is get stuck in my brain, and it's just now a part of my who I am. So I think when you're young, when you have young children and you take them to see these films, you have to remember that they're going to see them differently than you saw them, because they're seeing it for the first time, and they haven't fully developed all those ways of parsing these emotions in their body and how to deal with them. So it's really, it can be a gut punch sometimes, but I think that's what makes them so unique and so enjoyable and so worthy of taking the time and spending the money for seeing them, because it really is, it builds our character. It teaches us right from wrong. It teaches us what it means to be alive and be human. And so all of these things, if you can teach these things to younger children, obviously you're going to teach them in the home, but if you can also teach them in the movie theater, I think it's really beneficial.
Wow, that's a good question. And that's a good answer, actually. And I really appreciate. But whenever we see to the children nowadays, they are always be hyper mode about Moana. Moana is a
Mm.
musical hit, and nowadays also Disney works for ASL, like those who are hearing aids and all. And Encantado, Disney mentioned that Encantado and Frozen, Moana gives the sign languages.
Mm.
Is there any good effect towards the cinematic world, or it gives a loss? What's your point of view?
I think uh, I think Disney wants to be inclusive. They want everybody to be part of, to be recognized and not marginalized. And it's interesting that the films that you just mentioned, Frozen, which is Northern Europe, Moana, which is this South Pacific,
Yes.
Encanto, which is to Central and South America, different parts of just not just North America, right? There's different parts of the world, and Mulan, which was in China. And so I think some Disney and Pixar, they're trying to, not trying, what they are very successful in doing is making their films accessible to other people from around the world, people with disabilities, people that they want everybody to be able to experience the magic of their product, their films. And so I think they're looking at different ways of, whether they're closed caption or sign language, or just being inclusive of people that aren't that have maybe a handicapped or a disability, and they want everybody to be able to enjoy to feel like they're being recognized, and then to be part of that experience. And I think that's a wonderful thing, to be able to do. And I'm happy that they're doing that to make everybody feel that we're all one big community.
Wow, this I appreciate about this, and the very most important thing is that um, Disney understands every people need and every people emotions, which is might be the other industries are also might be understand to the other person's emotion, but Disney does this. Yeah. uh, the EA Sports Company. I heard about this that EA Sports companies are mostly very dynamic company towards games and industries.
Mhm.
Are they believing in their stories which is based on emotion or something else, like they want something entertainment or in the different way?
I think video games work a little differently. Yes, of course, they would love for you to become part of the story, to get emotionally attached. But at the same time, you're trying to solve a problem, you're trying to solve a puzzle. And again, this goes to the kind of the very fast paced, shorter attention span. In video games, the story goes much quicker. Uh, you don't get into a lot of too much of the backstory. I mean, I think I don't play video games really much, but I'm certainly aware of the storytelling that goes on in them. So I think you'll get a little bit of a. I think the difference is the story gets developed as your character, as you, as the character, develop the story. So your part in a lot of these video games is the way that you react with the game. The story may change and alter. Now the developers of the story are going to create a framework, obviously a place and a time and other supporting characters, but it's not necessarily a linear story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. Because of your interaction with the game, you're going to maybe change that. Maybe with your interaction with the game, you're going to change the pace of when certain things are going to be exposed. Like you don't know what the mystery is until you were able to get to that next level. And so how long you take to get to the next level is on you, right? So the storytelling in video games is really quite a complicated a thing. Um, and I'm not sure what you mentioned EA Sports. I'm not sure what EA is doing, but there's certainly a lot of other video games out there where storytelling is much more in in part of the game, where people gamers will know that they're what their character's about. They'll know the history of their character. They'll know the history of how we got here. And I think you're seeing a lot of now, or not a lot, maybe not as much as there could be, but a lot of video games now are translating themselves into um, television programs. Because the characters are so strong, the stories are so strong that they can translate now into a different medium of television or movies. And so I think crossing back and forth is interesting because they are different types of storytelling. And the fact that creative people can take that story in the game and translate it to a film or a television show, I think is brilliant. And I think it's because the characters are so strong, and you become part of their journey, and oftentimes you're adjusting their journey. You're creating where they can go and how they see things. So I think it's just a different kind of storytelling, and I think it's great because now as a gamer I have agency. Now I'm committed. When you're watching an animated film, you're part of a passive audience, right? You're just watching it. You're not You hope the story turns out right. You become emotionally connected. When you're a gamer, you're really emotionally connected because you are conducting the action. And so you don't want your character to get harmed. You want your character to be successful. And so now you're very, very connected to that story in quite a different way because you're not a passive audience, you're an active participant, which is a different way, different thing. So different way.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah, so I really we appreciated this. Um, so, which video game you want to play always, and what you prefer to the young generation and to everyone in this world? You should be played this game, and also one question also blend with is what musical thing you more like, and you can prefer to the people. You should be listen to this music so that in your mind also refresh from Disney animated movies and all from any movie. Yeah. What you
Mm.
like most? Yeah.
Okay, sure. So I like playing God of War. I like the original God of War. Um, I just that was because I think that's where I first started gaming. That was the first like story driven, narrative driven game I played, and so I like the characters. I like going back to, because it's familiar to me, right? So when you think about children who watch an animated film, and when you have children, you'll know this is like they want to watch it over and over and over and over again. They want
Yeah.
to watch the same film over and over again because they're familiar with it, and it brings them comfort because they know what to expect. So I can't for me, God of War, that's where I'm at. So God of War. Um, I really I like the music of I think Lion King. Lion King, I think Elton John just created such a uh, great soundtrack. I mean, there was love songs. There was songs about growing up. There was songs about loss, and some of them were funny, some of them were sad. And I think it was just really, and all of those songs moved the story forward. And again, as I mentioned earlier, were part of the storytelling. They weren't
Yeah.
just a popular song thrown into a film because it was a popular song.
Yes.
Those songs told the story. And so, that's that for me, that's the big difference. Is like I don't want to go see a movie and just a popular song pops up because it's a popular song and has nothing to really do with storytelling. I want You're going to put a song in it, you're going to make it a musical, make it part of telling, pushing the story forward. So I'm going to go with God of War and Lion King. That's for the Lion King for the music and God of War for the video game that I have the most fun memories about playing. So there you go.
I also like to the Lion Kings, and I watched many times to the Lion King in the 2D and in also the 3D in Hindi and also in English subtitles.
And,
That's
and and I think also about the Lion King is that opening song, that opening sequence where all the animals
yes,
are coming to see the new baby born, and it's just such a powerful opening song. I mean, I don't know if you've seen if the stage version of Lion King has come to India, but if you're sitting in a darkened theater and all of a sudden that song just starts, and it's just like everybody gets goosebumps, right?
yes, yes, yeah.
And it's
Yes.
just yeah. So Lion King's going to be it for me.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's all fab with the top one most. There's always
Yeah.
okay. Thank you. And also, and one thing is also Hakuna Matata is the everyone's favorite, like Timba, Pumba, and also Simba. I have so no Simba. I'm so just forget Simba. I have
Yeah,
so yeah,
Simba the baby. Yeah.
yeah, Simba. Yeah,
So it's again that film has so much fun stuff in it. The Hakuna Matata. Don't worry about it. I want to grow up to be king.
yes.
Do you feel the love tonight? It's like, oh, on and on and on and on. So yeah, it's got everything.
I really motivated towards the Hakuna Matata. I really love the song and all. Okay, thank you, Paul, to connect with me. And I would really today we have a very magnificent and a boostable podcast today. Thank you so much for coming, and I appreciate your valuable time. My audiences are also appreciate your valuable time. Thank you for coming here. I have to be.
Thank you, Vibek, very much. It was always a pleasure speaking with you, and hope you have a lovely rest of your day in India.
Thank you, thank you so much.